Hi, I am Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And today I have Tampa City Councilman Charlie Miranda, one of my most favorite guests. And probably you've been on the air with me more than just about any of the other guests over the 20 years that I've been doing this.
Well, as you well know, the first time I came here, I had curls. So I've been here quite a long time.
I don't believe there's anybody in the whole state of Florida that knows more about plumbing than you do. Well, you're a horse race guy, but you sure know a lot about the sewer system in the city of Tampa. I think one of the things you told me at the beginning, that we had enough underground piping to go from here all the way to New York and back.
Correct. And the water lines, you have enough to go from here to California.
Ooh, wow.
So what it is, it's...
they need water out there.
Well, they need a lot more than water, but they don't have a show as good as yours, I'll tell you that. What the problem has been in a long time, that we didn't have enough funds ever to do replacement of the pipes. And when you leave things alone, you spend more money in repairing than you do in replacing. And let me give an example. For the last 4 or 5 years, we've been spending over $20 million in just repairing the pipes, not replacing the pipes. And you know, that story continues for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, breaks here, breaks there.
You'll have the same costs.
It's like whack-a-mole.
Right. It's like catching a cold. You got to get rid of it. And that's what happens in the city of Tampa or any other city that hasn't made an effort 20, 30, 40 years back to start that replacement.
Do we see a big change coming? Are you able we're in probably one of the biggest economic swings that we've had. There should be some money available now.
Well, the money for pipes was never there because the money for pipes and the replacement of those pipes was only to repair them, not to replace them. So now we started a process by every month you'll see $2 going to the water department and $2 going to the replacement of the sewer tertiary treatment lines that take the water back into the plant to clean it out and put it in the bay. So everybody wins. The taxpayers get the product, the bay gets cleaned out, and we have done right for everybody, the environment and the citizens who are paying the tab.
Now you mentioned the word tertiary. Is that just a polite word for polluted water? No,
tertiary treatment means polluted water is something that you can't use. This is water that when you finish with it, we'll be able to put in the bay. In fact, our bay now is back to the standard that it was back in the 50s.
Oh, really?
Because the grasses and the little fish are being able to produce themselves. We have enough now that the fishes are coming back. All the species are coming back because of what the city's been doing for the last 20, 30, 40 years.
Even with the problems that St. Pete's had?
Well, I'm not going to go to St. Pete.
Because that's farther down.
St. Pete's a great city. They're just the western end of our line. They're neighbors of ours.
Well, I hope they get their sewer problem under hand.
I'm sure they will.
Charlie, let's talk a little about you, because there's a lot of people who really don't know who Charlie Miranda is. They know your name. You've been prominent for 20 years, 25 years in politics in this county, or in the city actually. But who is Charlie Miranda? Where do you come from? What is your background?
Well, I've just been a lucky guy. You know, you say you have to have an effort to be lucky. Maybe it was part effort, maybe it's part lucky, but I was born here in Tampa, and I had the privilege of being born in Ybor City. And I lived in an area that was all Hispanics. So the only language I knew was Spanish. So when I went to first grade, I didn't know what they were talking about. So for 10 straight days, I jumped out of the window and went home during the few days because I didn't know what they were saying.
You know, you bring that up. And a lot of people in this area would say, well, you lived in Ybor City. Obviously, it was Spanish. But it wasn't until recently that Phyllis and I went to the museum there and found out that Ybor City was made up of many different ethnic groups.
Many ethnic groups, many race colors, everything in Ybor City. It was a melting pot of society.
Russian, German, all kinds of different people.
In fact, they're on the names, on the buildings. You'll see names that you say in Ybor City. That's right. Ybor City was a melting pot of society, and we all got along.
I would encourage any of you watching this show, and I'm sure Charlie will too, to go to the State Museum down there in Ybor City.
Right.
It's free. It's a wonderful thing to come visit. And they've got the house that they repaired and rebuilt.
And they got the baseball museum there also.
And that's another thing you were involved in as a kid, going to Cuba to play.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to make the team. I was not the best player, but I made the team. And in fact, I'm honored in Cuba because I'm the guy who gave up the home run that gave the Cuban the winning in the series. So I'm very famous in Cuba for they called me Home Run Charlie.
Well, you know, it wasn't too many years ago that a team went back to play, and you were going. And I said, Charlie, I want to go too. And so I had all my plans made to go with you to go down there. And then you got sick. But I'm glad to see that you're better.
I wanted to get even with the Cubans. And we got the same team basically, and we practiced for about 3 or 4 months, and we played anybody who was 35 to 45. And we played 6 games, and we were 68 to 70. And the boys would tell me, why you? I said, listen, you think the Cubans are going to give us guys our age to play? Absolutely not. So we're going to practice with guys that are much younger. And we played 6 games, we won 3 and lost 3. And we told them we're ready to go now. And so it happens that I had to have surgery because during the practice, I strained my diaphragm muscle and my stomach went up to my chest and folded itself.
Ouch.
It hurt.
You know, and I don't believe there's anybody on city council that knows more about horse racing than you do.
Well, city council not supposed to do horse racing, but
but you do.
Well, because I was fortunate enough to be born in Ybor City. People, when I say Ybor City had horses and cows and goats and chickens, and they say, what? And I said, in every block there was a horse that somebody could ride, that some young teenager had. So I learned how to ride horses and be with horses since I was a little boy. And I went to Sagamore Hotel up in Boat Landing, New York, to work during the summers. And I did that for 7 summers. And I worked there, and there's where I got involved in real racing, when the people in the hotel would ask the manager if Charlie could take them to Saratoga to see the horses run.
Okay.
So I did. They gave me off, and I was making very good money just driving them so they could have fun and have a couple of drinks, and I would drive the car. So I saw great horse racing. I saw Carryback and Crozier. I saw Rydan and Japier. I saw a lot of horses that were really something, and that got me involved in the mindset.
Aren't you a steward or something?
No, I am now. I've been stewarding for the state of Florida now for 33 years, judging horse racing.
That's something else.
I like that very much.
You know, I know there's so many things about the city of Tampa that I want to talk to you about, but I think one of the things maybe, because I've got you here and your living history, maybe we can go back and talk about the development of the city of Tampa from your time period.
Well, that's a great question because it started really with Bill Poe in 1974 when he started building the quad block. And the quad block was mainly the 2 big buildings where the Hyatt Hotel used to be. Now it's called the Hilton, and the big tall building next to it, Tampa One Center. And those were done by an architect designed by a fellow named Charlie Miller, who graduated out of Plain High School. He was a genius. He was one of those that in the military, he's the one that the way computers talk to each other, cobalt and whatever it is. And he'd worked on all that for the military. He was a genius. And the man knew what he was doing. And he called, Bill Poe was a friend of his, and they worked together to start to develop it. So the development and the revitalization.
And what years would that be?
That was 74 through 79.
Okay.
And Bill Poe was the first one to start developing in the city. However, when you had that, you had compelling problems that the people were leaving downtown to go to suburbia.
Oh yeah,
it was
a
much
big
cheaper,
push.
big nice things. You have bigger house, less taxes. Well, now you got the opposite. People coming back because they got a traffic problem that they can't get where they live in time. They got the same taxes and they don't have the same quality of life. The amenities aren't there.
And that's a problem in the city of Tampa because there isn't enough housing for the people, especially mid-level and lower managers.
You're absolutely correct.
Those people are hurting because there's just not the space for them.
You have to have affordability of housing so everybody can have a place to live. I agree with you, and we're working on that. Mayor Castro doing a great project on that and starting to do what she can to solve that problem along with council members.
However, like her.
She's a wonderful lady. However, I really believe that the infusion of private capital into bringing in to build homes is another part that we have to look at that hasn't really been explored quite yet, and I hope we can get to that point very soon.
What will the council do towards making better housing?
Well, the codes are there.
Private funds are great.
Yeah.
But you've got to have the impetus to get that.
What they call affordable housing, what does that mean? Does that mean what payment? I call it housing that you can afford with the money you make. You shouldn't pay more than 30% of your income to buy a house. But the problem is that houses now cost $250,000 up because the land value at 20, 30 years ago, $8,000, $10,000 a lot. It's $100,000 a lot. So we have that along with the rising cost of construction, and that's the problem we're facing. However, there's a way of doing that. If the governments can gather enough land and hold that property and put it in like they're doing now to get contractors to bid for certain prices, get out a spec that you want done with different models, and let the public have, you can't, I look at it this way. I really believe you can build a house for $150,000, $155,000 and make a profit, whoever the developer is. The problem is that by the time you put the lot in it, you're looking at $250,000. So the lot the government gives it, if you built a house to a certain specification of certain level, with the amenities that is needed for the house to sustain itself for at least 20 years, then you have something where people can afford.
You know, I know as a council person, in all of our conversations, you really care about what we might call the underprivileged or the underclass. And that's great, $150,000, $200,000 house, but those folks can't buy that. Not on minimum wage at $10 or $11 an hour. Even right now, as I understand it, to get a studio apartment in Tampa, you're looking at about $1,800 a month, plus maybe even having to pay for utilities on top.
If you're looking at downtown Tampa, and you're looking at other areas close to downtown, you're absolutely correct. You can find on the outskirts of town, you can still find them. You can find a one-bedroom, $900, two-bedroom, $1,000, $1,100, but that's still not affordable. Because at that rate, you got to be making $35,000, $40,000 to sustain that, and they're not doing that.
$10 an hour, you can't do that.
In. So I would imagine the only way to do this, we have to have an increment, and I hope that that resolution is passed, that we have a chance to vote that $15 an hour minimum.
I see right now, reading the papers, that there's public housing that may have to be demolished because of graveyards being built under it.
That's true, and I don't know how that happened. I don't know how that happened, but somehow along the way, it happened, but it's not only in one area, it's in 4 or 5 areas of the city. So it's something that it should be fixed, and it will be fixed. The people that own those properties are very nice people, and I think they'll do the right thing.
Well, everything I've seen, that's been the way it's going, and I think that's great. But some of that public housing is owned by the public, correct?
Absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. So they'll have to rebuild and do something somewhere else.
You know, you've always been a forerunner of this. And the nice part now is you're at large. You cover the whole city of Tampa. You've always cared, no matter what district you represented, for all of the city. But now you actually can have a hand in it all.
Well, it's odd. I've been elected, like I said, 7 times, 8 with this past election. And I had the privilege of serving District 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. So I don't think I'm going to be around for 4 and 7.
You know, there are a few people in the city of Tampa's history that could say that.
Well, if you like something, go do it. And try to do it anyway. It's up to the public to give you an opportunity to do it. And I understand that. And you got to have a plan. You got to tell the public the facts. Some of them are not going to be appreciative of it. Some will, some won't. You can't satisfy everybody. And that's the way life is.
What do you see now as the things you'd like to see focused on over the next period of years, 5 years, 10 years, in the city of Tampa?
City of Tampa, when you look at the vast amount, we're going to grow by about 40% population in the next 25 years.
So we're looking at density?
You're looking at more density. You're looking now, we're approaching 400,000.
You have no more room to spread.
No, the city can't go any further. The roads are not going to get any wider. And the cars better get smaller. And so we're looking at about 600,000 people. However, I see some things that are coming in the automobile industry that's going to help. The electric cars are something that is fantastic. I drive one myself, and I drive a little Chevrolet Bolt, and it's a fantastic car. There's other cars that are larger. But the industry is saying that in the next 5, 6 years, 20% of all cars bought are going to be electric cars. So that'll help the environment. That's the main thing we got to worry about. You got to help the people who are helping. You can't continue to do the things that in the past they done because they didn't know any better. Now, through technology and scientific, they can tell you what you've done wrong. And I'm not blaming those because they didn't really know. However, I see the future of this whole country based on renewable energy, environmentally strong, and if those two come together, you're going to have the greatest country in the world. Not that we're not now, but we got to get better because those around us are also catching up to our standards.
I know there are economic reasons that, and I'll use the term greed in many instances, that we have not already said all construction should come with environmental standards.
There are standards to have.
But I don't know why they aren't doing that.
Well,
we've got all the sunshine in the world. Shouldn't a house be built with solar when it's built as a requirement?
Yes, if the public can afford to put it on. And that's the problem is we have the problem is that you say, I'm going to pay $80 a month, or $150 or $200 a month, and I can afford that for electricity. But they don't think that if you put that into renewable energy, like you just said, Bill, that you're going to have a much better home that will be higher in retail value than what you're going to pay for it anyway. You're going to have a savings that will help you make your house payment and maybe give electricity to somebody else.
We traveled in Germany, and it's amazing how many homes in Germany, everywhere you look, there's solar panels.
Not only that, what about the transportation system in Germany compared to us?
You can almost compare anywhere to us, and we come out bad on that.
Exactly right.
We rode the maglev train in Singapore, and 400 and some odd clicks per hour out to the airport, and we didn't even know we were moving.
You have to bring in, buses are great. However, the new society, the millenniums, are they going to ride a bus? Maybe, and maybe not. I think they'll ride light rail. And you don't hear too much talk about light rail.
I'd like to see buses be free.
We have to have something to spur them on because it's not working the way it is. And I have nothing against the buses, but you have to spur them on. You have to give them a kickstart to get it going.
And before I get all of you out there angry at me for saying the buses are free, oh no, the government will have to pay for it, that'll be taxes. But if we have free transportation, the good example of that, Salt Lake. Anything inside the whole city of Salt Lake, any transportation there, buses, the light rail, all of that is free. And people don't drive into town. They park outside, get on it, ride it downtown, ride it back. It's free. Instead, we're building these toll roads, Lexus lanes for wealthy people.
See, here's the thing I've learned, and I'm sure you know the same thing. I have nothing against expressways, but they keep adding lanes. And as soon as they add the lane, the capacity is full.
That's right.
So they put another lane. So just think of it this way. If that mentality is correct, we soon, after a number of years, we'll all be living under the expressway, all of us. So that's a flawed statement.
You just
to
can't
continue
keep adding lanes.
You have to make a change, and they haven't done that. I'm not critical of them, but they have to have another plan other than the current plan. You can do anything you like. It's your show.
No, it just seems to me to be ridiculous to continue to build these things, the highways to nowhere, which are only going to increase development away from the city and way out there in the middle of nowhere.
See, Tampa was lucky to have Bill Poe, then Bob Martinez, who became governor.
I was with him this past weekend.
Then Sandy Friedman, then Dick Rickle, then Pam Aurio, then Bob Buckhorn, and now Jane Castor. Why? They've all had the same goal of making it better. They may have different ideas and different ways to make it better. And when you start that, you see the Riverwalk. All of those that I just mentioned.
Oh, I love the Riverwalk.
They had a hand in that.
Yep. That was a great idea.
You have to give them all credit for that because they had a hand in it.
It draws people down for a purpose. It draws people in
for a purpose and relaxation. Every day you got the hustle and bustle, and you walk around the river, see the minarets at University of Tampa, the water, Eulalie, the other. You can walk about 2.5 miles, and you enjoyed yourself. It didn't cost you a penny.
Well, you know, that's nice because our friends who don't make what a lot of us make, they can enjoy the river walk without having to put out a lot of money. Take their family down, have a picnic, all those things. And to me, that's a wonderful thing that Tampa has.
It's a city on the move. I hope it doesn't leave. So what I'm trying to tell you is this, that, why do people come to Tampa? It ain't because all the mayors that I've named. It ain't because all the council members that I've worked with. Because we only have 2 seasons here in Tampa. You had Frankie Valley with 4 seasons, and you have Tampa with 2 seasons. Summer and Christmas. And people that, when you have those blizzards up north, they say, well, what am I doing here? I come here for the winter. I enjoy it for 4 or 5 months. What am I doing? So they're going to move in. So they move in. When the college kids, all the college kids in this city that used to go out, a lot of them stayed away and stayed wherever they went to school and lived there. Most of them now are coming back. I can tell you from my experience with my grandchildren.
I was talking to some friends that came down to visit, and it was during one of our quote-unquote cold snaps, and we were getting 65, 68, and I was apologizing. And they said, wait a minute, the sun's shining. I'm not shoveling snow. This really isn't all that bad a place to be.
Not at all. You have so many things to do in Florida.
Let's go into the last thing I'd like to talk about is our plumbing. I think it's important that Tampa be one of the showcases for that. We're on the water. Water's rising. There's no question now that sea levels are coming up. That could cause us some problems, I would assume, because we're close to sea level.
Correct.
What are we doing now besides, you said there's a $2 fund going over here?
Let me explain that. That will amaze. We're going to self-fund this for about 52%, 52, 53%. And then at the end, we're going to bond it out to finish it out. But the mask, we're going to up, that's the money we're collecting now, to start building the infrastructure and to start, but there's, it's a lot of lines under the ground in the city of Tampa, a lot of hundreds and thousands of miles combined with both of them, water and tertiary treated water. So what happens there is if you don't do that, you're spending more in repairing than you are in replacing. It's like a leaky roof.
Yep, we're back to where we started.
Well, how often are you going to say, spend 20 years in repairing the roof? You can buy a roof for cheaper than what you can repair it for. So that's what we've done. And the city of Tampa is embracing one of the largest infrastructure expenditures in the history of any city. $2.8 billion.
With a B.
With a B, not with an M. With a B like Bob, not like M like Miranda. So when that happens, and it'll start in a few years, you're going to see some changes made. Sure, there'll be some disruption, but it'll be a city that none of that should happen, where a pipe breaks and you have water going into the aquifer, that water that should never go there, that's not treated at that point. The water, that tertiary treatment plant, we were lucky that Dick Greco, instead of making lines for yard water for lawns, he expanded the plant by 30 million gallons.
Okay.
And we have enough tertiary capacity to handle the incoming of all that we think are going to move to this area. And I know from all the studies that we've done, it's going to happen.
Where do we get our water? Is it out of the Hillsborough Bypass Canal or?
99% of the water comes from the bypass canal.
99%?
Right. I mean, bypass canal and the Hillsborough River.
Okay.
And we buy water now. In January, we'll be buying water from Tampa Bay Water because we also have limits on how much water we can produce.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why are there?
Those are, you have to go
to
to a bunch of regulation to change that and legally.
How much water you can take out of the Tampa?
Well, how much water you can take out of the river
canal?
and out of the bypass canal. That's all controlled, and it should be, because if not, you become abusive, and those things happen. So the city of Tampa, when we had a drought, we asked the citizens not to water their lawns, only by hand watering twice a week. And you know what? Our water consumption went down, and we were able to master the drought without any catastrophes to anyone.
That's good when people actually respond.
They did.
And do that, make sure that they aren't the piggies that take things down.
So kudos to the citizens of the city.
I've wondered, for instance, I have a small home, and this other person over here has a big home with all kind of greenery. Are there any differences?
We made changes. Yes, there's water now. Prices are tiered.
Okay.
You use so much, you pay much more per unit of water.
So it's not just per lot much?
No. In fact, we changed the regulations in a lot where you had a certain size lot, you'd only build out 75% of what you used to for green.
75%?
Yeah, of what it was before. You have 25% now only 75% of your lawn can be green.
Yeah, I'm out where I live in Sun City Center, full disclosure. I love the city though. And when we moved here, I moved here because of the airport. I just absolutely fell in love with the airport, and the airport, people don't fly into Sun City or fly into Brandon, or they're flying into Tampa. So without a good solid core, I'm a big, let's make Tampa great, because if we don't, we got trouble.
And that you only seen the tip of the iceberg in that airport. What they've done there is unbelievable and continue to get even better. It's always ranked 1, 2 in the whole country for that size airport.
Yeah, I keep saying, and anybody that knows how to get Joe Lopano on this show with me, I've wanted to have Joe on. I think he's a hero.
I'll tell you what, I'll give him a call, see if I can help you.
I wish you would.
He is a hero.
I need to get somebody on. Charlie, how would you like to take just a minute and talk directly to the voters out there, especially the ones that put you in the office, and tell all those that didn't vote for you, you're going to serve them too?
Well, I always say this. I never ask anyone, how many times have you, in your life, have you missed a vote? How many times? I don't treat anybody by party affiliation or race or color or creed. I try to stay exactly. And some people like what I do and some people don't like what I do, but I got to base it on what the facts I have before me and what I think is going to do the best for this country and for this country in this city to continue to be the best place you can live in. And I want to make Tampa, before I'm finished, the finest city in the world.
Well, I hope you got lots of years ahead of you. How many do you have on this election cycle?
I don't get finished now to 2023.
2023, okay. So that'll make you up there around 82, 83.
I will only be 82.
We're the same age.
No,
so.
I know. And that's why I like to come here. I can be somebody that's not quite my senior yet.
But it's nice. You've got all this experience, all of this knowledge. And I hope you'll come back and see me again.
Anytime, my friend. And I'll call Joe Lopano.
Will you please?
I will.
And then call me and tell me what he said, will you?
I promise.
'Cause I just think he's a great guy, and I really look forward to having him on the show. I want him to talk about where he came from as far as the airport's concerned and where it's going. And, everything I see about it, I like. I can't think of anything. Of course, I don't know anything about airports other than I've been in and out of them a lot, that he could do differently. It's going to make it.
He's a great guy.
I'm Bill Hodges. This is Spotlight on Government. My guest today has been Charlie Miranda, one of my favorite people from the City Council here in Tampa, Councilman at Large this time. And what were all those numbers, Charlie?
5, 6, 1, 2, 3.
And that's the ones he's served. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell you so softly because you are, and we'll catch you on the next Spotlight on Government. Again, Charlie,
Take care, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.